So here I have a very sad looking Reflex 3 from my parts boxes. Tells me bad prism, no hold down bracket on the cocking rack. And the film advance lever is sticking out. If we release the shutter, move this, it doesn't come back to the rest position and certainly doesn't cock the shutter. I've just taken 2 screws out of the top cover. There are only 2 out of the 3 present, and they do not look like the originals. So, well, there's most definitely no hold down bracket here, and I would say to guess that that's popped off over the teeth of the transfer shaft and is therefore doing no good. The prism has been out, it's only held down with 1 screw here, so I'll take that out because it'll make it much easier to see what's happening with no prism. Okay, so looking in here, I'm looking at the position of this transfer shaft here, and that's round further than it should be. It should be round more this way, so that's not in the correct rest position, which is hardly surprising if this rack here is not being held down firmly. So I'm going to loosen the screw here and lift this pulley slightly. This is the one with the cords for the meter on it. And see if I can lift that rack back up over where it should be. I can lift that now. The film advance lever dropped back to the rest position, so this is about 1/2 out, I would say, at that spot. Yeah, it might just about get away with that, but we're certainly in the wrong position here. See if I can lift the rack with my tweezers here at this end, rotate that shaft at this point, the transfer shaft, and drop the rack back into position. I may be 1 tooth wrong there, but it's certainly a move in the right direction. I'll just snug that screw back down, and I'll find a bracket in my parts boxes and put that there and see if that works. As I say, it might be 1 tooth out. I might have this lifted 1 tooth too far, in which case it won't continue the cocking action. The film advance lever will stop before it won't return, it'll be jammed. That'll tell me that I'm 1 tooth out, and I can have another go at moving that back 1 tooth. Back shortly. Okay, well, I've found a hold down bracket here. So we'll see if that will do anything wonderful for us. Not expecting a miracle cure or the camera to leap into life and work like a bought one, but it will give me a chance to get an indication of what other problems lie with the camera. So the rack's held down firmly now, it's engaged with the transfer shaft. I pull the film advance lever, it won't complete the stroke. So we've got other problems going on here. So I'll take that back out. I note that the mirror is in the down position here, which is unexpected. try lifting this rack up, disengage it from the cam. That's it, we're just about back at the rest position. I'll try rotating this up a little bit less this time. And come back even one from there, I think. I'll try it there. I don't want this pulley to come loose. That's why I've retightened that screw, because if it comes loose I'll lose the tension on the cord, and then the front of the camera would have to be opened up in order to put things back again. Of course it may come to that anyway, in fact almost certainly it will. But if we were just trying to deal with a problem with a camera that somebody had dismantled for no good reason, this might be what we need to do. Again, the shutter release, the film advance lever will not complete. And will not return to the rest position. Now that just dropped over a tooth there at that point, I heard that. Now the film advance lever will return. So the shutter's not cocking. The mirror is staying in the down position. Well, the shutter appears to be cocked, but doesn't release. So the camera has serious problems with the shutter, but the position of the film advance lever, the rack relative to that transfer shaft at the back is now correct. But the problem with this camera, there is something seriously wrong with the shutter. And what that might be, I do not know. You can tell the camera's been serviced before. The colour of that wire, that orange, that's a foreigner. That's not what it should have had originally. And the track of the wire over here at the front of the camera is a little bit odd too. I wonder if that connection is actually blocking something there. Certainly the mirror is not releasing. So this one, it was worth a quick look to see if we could sort out something or find out more. Well, I suppose we have had some success because we have found out more. We found out that there is a problem with the shutter. And never mind the missing rack, that was just somebody not having tidied up properly when they put it back together after investigating the fault. This will not be bursting back into life in the next 10 minutes. So this is the one the hold down bracket on the cocking rack was missing, and we've determined that there's a problem with the shutter, and the shutter appears to be in the cocked position but does not release. Now I'm deeply suspicious that the front rings might be incorrectly placed. The meter pulley at the top here is not quite in the right position for B and f1.9. It's not far away, but it's not right. So I'm going to remove these front rings. 3 screws, the long screw in this position. We know the camera has been serviced before because of the coloured wire, the orange coloured wire for the flash connection visible from the top. And you can see that the leatherette on this side in particular is a bit mutilated looking. And you might notice that the leatherette here is a little bit damaged. Someone's removed that patch and put it back. Now there's nothing under those patches you really need to get at. Let's just remove these rings here. They're certainly not quite correct. That's the shutter is in the set to B, and it certainly does not release. Just set it to one of the fastest speeds. There's absolutely no response there. The shutter does appear to be cocked. It should be at the very least releasing the mirror. Okay, well we're still not winning. But it's a little bit more investigative work and we've discovered a little bit more. We know that someone had probably had these front rings off. I'll get them back in the correct place this time. Let's get that wheel round to where it should be, which is right there. And get these front rings correctly placed, which is there. It's there. And this should be up. Yeah, there. Let's see how I get on. Oops, that ring's dropped right out of place. It didn't go well. And that didn't go well either. But that looks right. I'll get the screws back in place. This one can slide back into the box of dead cameras. I might just be creating a bit of a problem here by putting that ring back in place in that position if that camera shutter is in fact cocked. Of course it may not be in fact cocked. There may be a problem at the front of the transfer shaft. I'll make a note of that on here. Still thinking about this same camera. We need more information about that shutter. Whether it's cocked, whether the mechanism actually cocks the shutter, whether the shutter is cocked and fails to release, or what exactly is going on. So I'm going to remove the prism so I can observe the back of the front plate and the controls that are on the back of the front plate which help control the shutter. I'm going to remove those front control rings again, because if the shutter is in the cocked position, this ring in particular will be in the wrong place. I don't think it is. Let's find out. One of the main things when working on cameras, it probably goes for anything really, is try to do no harm. So don't be introducing extra faults. So looking at this, the shutter blades are open. So the shutter's either cocked and it's waiting to release, or the shutter is, the blades are fully open partway through the exposure and they've failed to return. So I'm looking at the position here. This lever here lifts with the capping plate, and that would release the transfer shaft and the little rack here, which would allow the shutter to run down. Now there is a problem here, because this thing here should have some spring tension on it, which is given to it by the flash contact at this end. We already know this has been mucked around with because of the odd coloured wires. I suspect that that flash contact is in fact broken. Normally the capping plate comes up, hits the bottom of this lever in the release of the shutter, and when this arm lifts up, it lifts out of contact with this tiny rack here, which allows that to move across. Well, that rack is in the cocked position. So the shutter is cocked, but it's failing to release. The shutter release does a number of things, but one of the things it does is it bears on a lever at the back of the front plate, which connects to the shutter release in the shutter itself. That appears to move. It's obviously not doing anything useful. The shutter's not responding. Alright, so we've got a little bit more information.